What do you want to say about the consumption of fish, 1, the consumption of dairy, 2, the consumption of salt, 3? Fish, dairy, and salt. What do you want to say about that regarding our health?
All right, this is what I teach every day. Okay, let me start with number 2, just no, all right? Dairy is one of the most inflammatory things that people consume, and it has direct negative effects on their health, whether it's autoimmune or their cholesterol, on type 2 diabetes. It is just absolutely not food for humans, and it needs to go. So that's one that I could just give it just a universal, like, thumbs down. Let's just take that out. Fish, fish is one that they have swum into a lot of healthy diets, but I don't agree that it should be there. And I think, the proof is really happening more and more. A lot of times research catches up with what we are doing in practice. Like, I work with so many people every single day, and so what I'm seeing every day, I can't even begin to share versus, what they're doing in labs and studies. But I thought a really, really great study that came out that I think shows the truth about fish was the study that was published in the British Medical Journal looking at COVID and diet, which I thought was wonderful. This was before vaccines and treatments came out. So they were looking purely at COVID and frontline providers, so doctors and nurses on the front line dealing with COVID, and what they ate and whether or not they got COVID and whether it was moderate to severe. And the 3 diets they looked at is people who identified as, well, 4 really, standard American diet. They looked at people who identified as plant-based or vegan, no specifics about what they ate, people who identified as pescatarian, and people identified as high protein, low carb, so like keto or paleo. And what they found was, and it was really shocking, I did a lot of news clips on this because it was just so profound. What they found is people who identified as plant-based or vegan had 70% lower rates of moderate to severe COVID, 70% lower than people who ate the standard diet. That was shocking, right? Then they looked at pescatarians who don't eat any other meat or dairy, but plants and fish, right? And they had about 50% lower rates of moderate to severe COVID, right, than the standard population. Then they looked at the people who were high protein, low carb, so basically lots and lots of meat, not much plants. And what they found is those folks had almost a 50% higher rate of moderate to severe COVID, higher rate than average. So it was really, really interesting study. And what the conclusions that they drew were people who are plant-based eat more vitamins and minerals because that comes from plants, and those are probably protective. Again, you have to be careful about discussions and conclusions that are drawn, right? But what I found really fascinating that they didn't even address in the discussion was look at the difference in immune function between someone who eats only plants. 73% was how much lower their rate of moderate to severe COVID was, only plants, versus a pescatarian who was better off than everyone else, 50% better, but not as good by a long shot as plants alone. So there's a lot of folks out there who are trying to say that you need to have fish as part of your healthy diet. But what that study and what my experience has shown is that people who eat fish have less healthy immune systems and less optimal health than someone who eats plants alone. People who eat only meats, those guys are really sick. And actually, one of my husband's good friends died of COVID early on. And he is someone who is a very famous fitness guru who ate a high protein, low carb diet in his 50s, wife and kids, really great person, but ate this high protein, low carb diet and thought he was healthy, and he quickly died from COVID. And so, when I read that study, I thought of him, that there are people walking around who think they're healthy because they got a 6-pack because they're eating that high protein diet, but their immune system is not healthy and they're in severe danger. So that's how I feel about fish. Don't do it. All right. If you're doing it and no other meat, you're still better off than the meat eaters, but fish is not a vegetable and it's not helping you out. It's better off to just eat the plants. Salt. Yeah. So again, my feelings about salt, well, they're not feelings. My directions about salt come from direct experience. I have not found that eating salt has stopped anyone from reversing their disease. What I have found is people hydrate themselves, but don't eat enough salt. They get really dizzy because they're dropping their blood sodium levels. So for people who are hyper-nourishing with 96 ounces of water or more, I don't recommend people go over a gallon without me watching over you. When you're drinking high levels of water, you do need some sodium in your diet. One, it's a great way to get iodine. Two, your kidney's job is to concentrate your blood and your urine. And so if you have a ton of water and not enough sodium, you're just going to lose all that. Your body's going to just dump that water out. You're going to be running to the bathroom, trying to get rid of it and feeling dizzy. So I do think that the negativity around sodium came from the fact that most people are dehydrated, and you take someone who's already dehydrated, you give them sodium, their blood pressure can go up. They have all these other issues. Someone who's hyper nourishing and well hydrated, it's actually an important part of the diet, and it doesn't cause any problems. And like I said, thousands of people I've worked with, I've never had that be a problem at all. Low sodium tends to be more of a problem than adequate sodium intake when you're eating in that way.
Okay, so I say that you have good, better, and best choices. I think by far the best diet is a vegan diet. I think that intermittent fasting, helping to detox the body, is actually very important. But that being said, I go back to you have to meet people where they are. And that I would suggest that the easiest thing to do is to tell people avoid ultra processed foods, focus on natural, minimally processed foods, and then as they get better, as they heal, they can improve their diet.